handheld PCs, something that I am kind of into, not super into, but I know that there's a lot of these out there. Basically, earlier this week, I got my Lenovo Legion Go, which is my second handheld PC because the Steam Deck was my first handheld PC. I feel like I see a lot of people praise the Steam Deck for things that it wasn't like super capable of, rather than the things that make it super great. And now that I've kind of gotten a hands-on with both of these, I kind of want to talk about them. I don't know if my Steam Deck is charged, so let's hope. I gave a fun little tour of my Steam Deck a few months ago. If you do want to check that out, that is on my channel. So I've kind of lived and died by my Steam Deck. It is one of my favorite looking handheld PCs, or handhelds in general, that I've had. I put a lot of time and effort into making it look like me. Like, it has a whole decal, it has these little butterflies on the track pads, it has a whole clear back plate. Like, it's just, it is really cool, and I'm a big fan of it. I love my Steam Deck so much. However, as someone who does not as someone who does not have a main PC, there were a lot of things I wanted to do with this that I couldn't really do. I feel like a lot of people, when talking about the Steam Deck, try to make sure that you really know, like, oh yeah, if you really wanted to, you can use it as a main PC. You can plug it into a monitor, you can use it as like whatever, and that's awesome. When people are making comparisons, especially with the Switch 2, which isn't out when I'm recording this, but I feel like these comparisons will still come when the Switch 2 is out. It's all about the portability and like how easy it might be to plug into a monitor or a TV, and you can just like flip-flop between it. I feel like the Steam Deck was just not that good at being like a hybrid handheld like a lot of people made it out to be. And again, I love this thing to death. It is literally so good, and I will get to why I think it's so good, right? But it just didn't do what I wanted it to do, pretty much, as someone who doesn't have a PC and who had this as like my sort of gateway into that world. A lot of people who did buy Steam Decks are sort of people like who have consoles, who sort of are trying to make their way in there to PC games, if that makes sense. But that was a lot of me kind of rambling a bit, right? This thing is kind of insane. This chunky beast is the Legion Go. It, at first glance, just looks like a very chunky Nintendo Switch. It even has like the OLED kickstand, and I kind of love it. These controllers detach like that, like so. This one becomes a mouse before the Switch 2 did, which makes it pretty cool. And it just, I think it's really neat. The Legion Go is so much more powerful than the Steam Deck, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's better in every way. I've now had this for a week, and I just want to compare and talk about these things and why I love them and who they might be for, and just kind of yap about it. This won't be like a review of these really. This is just kind of my thoughts on handheld PCs in general and where they currently are as I'm recording this video. Having a bit of problems booting up right now, but we're just gonna ignore that. I feel like the Steam Deck is the perfect handheld PC if you love handhelds and handheld gaming, and just console gaming in general. If you just love not being confined to a keyboard and mouse and a monitor, basically. The Steam Deck is the most affordable of the mainstream handheld PCs, which many sort of compare to the Switch 2. Many people deemed the Steam Deck sort of the Nintendo Switch killer, which low-key, when I got my Steam Deck, I did not touch my Switch for a long time, and I still really haven't touched my Switch since I got this thing. I've definitely talked about it before, but there was something about the Steam Deck that just made it a lot easier to grab when I wanted to play a game that wasn't like a first-party Nintendo game. I don't know why it's not turning on. So sad. I feel like the Switch, nope. The Steam Deck is like a breath of fresh air when it comes to these sort of handhelds, basically, because SteamOS is amazing. I am a big fan of how SteamOS looks visually, but there's so many compatibility things going on with SteamOS that makes it like iffy when it comes to playing PC games specifically. Now, obviously, it's a Steam Deck. It's basically just going to play Steam games, which is really not a problem because I feel like most good PC games will be on Steam. It's just kind of an issue when it comes to stuff like Game Pass, which you can bypass if you have XB Play, which I highly recommend if you do have this and you do have Game Pass. But again, you can only like stream it or cloud play. You can stream your console and cloud play, whatever. However, SteamOS as a whole is very, very customizable, which I feel is, again, part of the appeal of a handheld like this. There's a lot of handheld lovers out there who live and die for customizability and just being creative with their handhelds. Kind of like me. As you can tell, my Steam Deck is kind of decked out and goated front to back, and the screen, if I were able to show you, I'll probably put up clips of like my old Steam Deck video on here. But basically, the Steam Deck feels like a console. Interesting to me how Valve was able to make a PC feel like a home console. And of course, they've been trying to master this for what feels like forever. I don't know how many of you remember Steam machines, but those were definitely out there and those were kind of crazy. I used to really want one, but it was just not my time to get into all of that. But the Steam Deck, I love because of how much Valve is really pushing for the Steam Deck. It's making a lot of video game developers optimize their games for lower end PCs. If you have a low end PC and a game runs perfectly on a Steam Deck, then it will run good on your PC. It's like the correlation that I don't know if it was intentional or not is there. And as someone who grew up with like a lower end gaming laptop, I would have loved just having either a Steam Deck or just having that little like compatibility thing or playable show up. Valve was really cooking with the Steam Deck, and they know it. This is the LCD model, so I can't really speak on the OLED fancy screen, but honestly, the LCD model still looks gorgeous as well. I love it. So if I love the Steam Deck so much, why did I buy this chunky thing? Let me explain. A big thing that is not appealing to people in the market for handheld PCs is Windows. One of the big problems, like I said earlier, I don't have a main PC, but I did still find myself wanting a main PC to use like on a monitor and for stuff like that. My Steam Deck had a bit of a fall. I feel like I've mentioned this before, but the USB-C port is just so far in there that it's a little too far in there that it no longer connects to a monitor. It was nearly $200 to get that repaired, and in my head I was like, it still works as a handheld, so I'm gonna keep it as a handheld because it worked better as a handheld anyway. When my Steam Deck was able to connect to a monitor, in desktop mode, pretty much all you could do was like your basic daily things. If you even thought about playing games through the Steam Deck on your monitor, it was very, very rough. No matter the game I picked, it could have been like Helldivers 2 or it could have been Fields of Mystria. It will not run great on a monitor in desktop mode. You can adjust the settings and stuff, but it's not really gonna help because it is trying to output bigger than the screen itself. If you did just dock it from the regular SteamOS mode to your monitor, it would look so fuzzy because again, it's outputting at the resolution of the screen. It's just not going to look great. It's gonna look so fuzzy. You can get past it with games like Field of Mystria, but if I was trying to play a game like Helldivers, it was over. It would just not happen. The difference between playing on the Steam Deck itself and playing on the Steam Deck docked was so different. The performance was so different. It was kind of crazy. And it was sort of all of this on top of the fact like, oh, I can't even dock it anymore. And Linux doesn't support a lot of games that I kind of like because of the whole anti-cheat thing. It just kind of leaned me towards at least thinking about getting a more powerful handheld PC.
Editor Toastyy here using text-to-speech. Of course getting a real PC was in consideration, but due to the silly way the world is right now, I didn't even bother with it due to the price. I recently bought a new laptop to edit videos, so the mindset was, if I could find a second-hand Lenovo Legion Go for a good deal, I might as well snag it. If the opportunity shows up, then it shows up. And it did, indeed, show up. Okay, back to real Toastyy, hehehe.
Because if you can find like a good one, if you can find like a good one for a good price, it's still cheaper than getting a big PC, which takes us to this beauty. I got this Legion Go secondhand for $400. The Legion Go is usually way more expensive than that. However, with the Legion Go 2 around the corner, which is sort of aimed to be thousands and thousands, and also me still wanting a Switch 2, which I did get unlocked, this kind of felt like a good deal. This and a Switch 2 is still cheaper than a PC. So I was like, I'll just get it. Now, there's a lot of things here. I am absolutely obsessed with it, and of course it could be because it's a new thing. I feel like when anyone gets some sort of new tech or literally anything, you're just gonna be obsessed with it for a while. I've had this for a week. I'm recording this at the end of the week and it'll probably be uploaded in like 2 days. So I've had this for a week. I've been posting about it nonstop on my TikTok because I'm just having so much fun with it. And somebody commented that there's not a lot of fun content about the Legion Go. I decided to talk about that a bit. Now, immediately, as you can see, it runs Windows, and I have a bunch of games that are not supported by SteamOS on here. Like, I have Destiny 2, I have Infinity Nikki, which is now on Steam, but it wasn't earlier. I have Apex Legends, which again used to be on Steam or on SteamOS, but now it's not because of the anti-cheat. And also Century Age of Ashes, which same thing, anti-cheat, so it wasn't available. And like I said earlier, Windows is not an appealing thing for handheld PCs because it's literally just Windows with a touchscreen. Like, it's nothing crazy. That makes it a bit difficult to navigate, but me personally, I don't mind it. There's not a lot that I'm doing in handheld mode that needs me to like have a keyboard out and be typing stuff. I feel like the on-screen keyboard that is on here, like that, this works for me. I have no problems with this. And also, it's like way more responsive than the Steam Deck one. My Steam Deck isn't even turning on right now, so I can't compare. But the Steam Deck keyboard, you have to like click and wait, click and wait, click and wait. And I don't really see a lot of people talk about that, so maybe it was just my Steam Deck, but this keyboard does just fine. I feel like I'm using my iPad keyboard when I'm using this. And also, again, a lot of the games, not all, but a lot of the games I play are on Steam, and Steam has big picture mode. So again, if I really wanted to play these types of games, I can still use my controller like with no problem, and then I still get that Steam Deck-like experience, and I have like no problem with this either. The only thing that like you kind of miss is the customizability of the UI that the Steam Deck had, and Lenovo tried to make up for this with their Legion Space. One of the very few complaints I have about the Legion Go right now is this little button takes like a couple clicks to show the like the performance and all of like the settings and stuff here. But anyway, this button right here should bring up Legion Space once it loads. This was sort of their attempt to remake that like SteamOS magic, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's like it's perfectly fine, it does its job. Like, it's just a game launcher for all of your games on every store and every launcher and every whatever you play games on. Like, it works really well. However, I find myself just kind of staying with the regular Windows because I really don't mind it. But the thing that's brought me the most joy with this Legion Go so far is when it's connected to a monitor. The game performance stays the same no matter the resolution it's running at. And that is so cool to me. Now, obviously, if I'm playing in freaking 4K, like, it'll be like a couple frames lower, which, mind you, this screen has 4K, which is so unnecessary, but I don't mind it. And I know that they changed that with the Legion Go 2 because nobody was playing their games in 4K on a handheld. But you know, it's like, you know what really baffled me was I was playing Destiny 2, which is a pretty game. It ran at like, I think it runs at like near 60 on a handheld, which is perfectly playable to me. I'm not super picky on how my games run. And near 60 on a thing like this is still amazing to me. That is so cool. It runs just like that on my monitor, running at 1080. And that's so cool because on my Steam Deck, when I tried to run any game of any resolution on my monitor, the performance would just dip so hard. So that's just something I've been having a lot of fun with because this really has been the PC that I plug into my monitor. Something that I also really like about it too is it has a USB-C port up here and a USB-C port right here, which is so perfect for me because my monitor has a USB-C option rather than a HDMI option. So I've been like plugging my monitor up here, and then I plug in like my microphone down here, and then my mouse and keyboard are Bluetooth, and it's just a very clean and fun setup that I appreciate. Now, of course, there are really cool docks and stuff that are being sold everywhere. I had a few for my Steam Deck, but the accessibility of having 2 ports, I know the Rogue Ally has that as well. 2 ports is just, like, that's so smart. I appreciate it. It's the little things, really. Someone on Instagram asked me what issues I had with the Steam Deck that made me want to get a Legion Go. I responded to them basically saying it's entirely just my own personal preferences. I just feel like so many people hyped up the Steam Deck to be a hybrid PC console handheld thing, when in fact I feel like it's just the Steam Deck is 1000% better when it comes to customization and game compatibility. Like, if a game is Steam Deck verified, then you never really need to worry about it unless you're playing something insane. You get a lot of reliability and comfort in the Steam Deck, knowing that it is this basically optimized PC for people who love playing on consoles. And that is so cool. I absolutely love what the Steam Deck has done for PC gaming and how a lot of console players also love the Steam Deck. It's a really cool correlation. However, I really wanted what people advertised the Steam Deck to be, aka that literal hybrid PC, basically. And Windows doesn't really bother me, like I said. So honestly, the Legion Go has been exactly what I really wanted. I feel like the only downside, or I guess the downsides in comparison to the Steam Deck, is it's not as customizable as SteamOS, and it's pretty massive, but honestly, I get used to it. Handheld PCs also just generally have pretty shitty battery life. Both of these, for the type of games I play, I usually get around 2 hours. It's gonna be the same with the Switch 2. I expected it. It was something I knew it was gonna happen beforehand. These are always plugged in, no matter what I'm playing. I think in the end, the Steam Deck is the much better option if you want an affordable handheld PC with a lot of optimization. If you play a lot of lighter PC games, I know for a fact that something that really annoyed me when I had the Switch was, of course, the beautiful indie games that would come out on Steam and then you'd have to wait for them to be on Switch. If you have a PC that, like, this is the PC companion to have, really. And if you just want an overall fun, easy to use, out of the box handheld experience, this is for the handheld people, really. And I feel like the Legion Go is just a much better option if you want a hybrid PC. If you don't have a PC and you want something to use casually, but, you know, obviously to play games on, something more powerful than the Steam Deck. If you have more money to spend, this is a more PC experience. But I think that's how it's supposed to be, if you know what I mean. And I am a huge, huge fan of both. I was gonna compare how games run in this video, but I don't know if I have time to figure out what's going on with my Steam Deck. However, that is pretty much all of my thoughts right now, but I am very, very happy with my Legion Go, and I'm very happy with my Steam Deck. I feel like both are for very different purposes, and that is very cool. For now, I am using my Steam Deck. For now, I am using my Legion Go so much more than my Steam Deck, but that's probably because it's just a new device that I have. Only time will tell which one I really prefer. But for now, I am very much enjoying this experience. And again, I know the Legion Go 2 is coming out this year, but with the way that the world is right now, and with just PC stuff in general, the Legion Go 2 is probably going to be thousands and thousands of dollars that I am not going to want to spend, even if it has more quality of life features than this one might have. And also the Switch 2 is coming out. Again, completely different experience, even though this has detachable controllers and mouse mode and all that stuff, which is so funny, by the way. Isn't that crazy that when the Switch 2, or one of the many original Switch 2 leaks, they directly mention that it has Legion Go features, and because the Legion Go is not as popular as, like, the Rogue Ally, people were like, what does that even mean? but it meant mouse mode, basically. Those were kind of my thoughts on handheld PCs, or at least the ones I have right now. They are for very different people, and I think that's really cool. So thank you so much for watching this video. I just hit 3,000 subscribers as I'm recording this, which is insane to me because I'm already nearing 4,000. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I really appreciate you all being here. I never even thought I'd be near this subscriber count ever. So thank you for listening to me rant. I hope if you were doing chores while listening to this video, that you got your chores done. I hope that if you were eating while watching this video, that your food was good. And if you were drawing, I hope your drawing turned out good. So thank you for watching. I will see you all next week for whatever the hell I end up talking about next. If there's anything you want to hear me talk about, honestly, let me know. I need more ideas now anyway. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.